Hey, this is Brian back for another video. I got my little red Tegu out right now, and this episode of this video portion is going to be it's not a he, it's a she, my red Tegu. I need to just discuss some things that I'm finding out. She's going to jump down. She just does not like to be held restrained. And she's just so opposite the black and white. And I think that's what my video is going to be on today. It's going to be on a couple things, and it's very important. I'm going to try to move this along. It's going to be about housing requirements. And we'll start off also, too, I want to talk about what happened to her, into her tail. So I guess at first I'm going to start out talking about what happened to the tip of her tail. And it is regenerating now, and my black Tegu is black and white, wants to come out. I don't know if the camera's going to pick this up, but her tail is regenerating. She's a little squirmy. It's just the way she is, totally opposite the black and white. But her tail is regenerating there, and I'm putting a little bit more vitamins in her food, and I can see that that's speeding up. And it was about an inch to maybe an inch and a half of the tip of her tail, and it was very, very a horrible event. I just compare a lizard losing the end of its tail or a big portion of its tail to be an awful event. First comes the death of an animal. Obviously, that's the worst. And then, maybe a reptile losing an appendage like a leg or a foot or toenails. I think that's pretty bad. And then, third is the tip of their tail, or, they could lose a large portion of their tail. When we turn that off, that's my heater going for the reptile. Okay. So what happened, and the voice is kind of scaring her. She's going to drop down to the ground. So what happened with the red Tegu, and it was probably a month and a half ago. I lose track of time. I have a large room, and this is kind of what kind of this video is about. Hopefully someone can find this helpful. I'm not a professional, but I do have a lot of reptile experience. I'm not a zoologist. I'm not trained. I didn't go to college and study, 4 years and get my master's in reptiles. 7 or 8 years of studying reptiles. It's all on my own, looking at the internet, reading books when I was younger, and on the job training, as you want to say, with owning a lot of different reptiles. But she's going to drop to the ground. I don't really like them to fall any great distance. So what happened? Let me get to the point. I have a reptile room, and then I have a converted closet. There it goes to the ground. And then I have a closet that I've turned in where I can shut the door, and it's a complete habitat of its own. And I can control the temperature in there a lot better, and humidity versus a whole room. I don't know what, this room is maybe 10 by 15. It's a large space, and it's getting winter time. It's dropped from the 90s real quick to the 80s within a couple of weeks, and now in the nighttime it's 66. And I'm having to if you've watched my past videos, I let my reptiles run around in a whole room, and because they're so rambunctious, and I think it's attributing to their health, because they have so much space, and their little mental health, their little brains, and they have a lot of little activities and things they can climb in the room. But it came to the point where I can't keep my whole entire house 83 to 85 degrees. Yes, they brumate. I'm not necessarily 100% sure I'm going to let them brumate, because they're kind of young. And so I was just going to keep them warm all winter, and I got to move them into a smaller space so that I can, regulate that space with a heater and lights. Otherwise, I can't keep the whole entire house, 85 degrees. That's just not realistic. So, but the back to the tail. Sorry, my brain thinks on many different levels. The dog came into the room, and I had him loose here in the room, like they like to just roam around in the room. And I had the black and white Tegu because he's so much more friendly and so much easier to hold and handle. I took him into the bathroom where I do a lot of, soaking them in the tub and sometimes feed them and, just sit in there and just watch them as they sit on the ledge and soak up some natural sun. So he was in there, and I left this one alone in the room, and the door was cracked. And my dog, which is a very friendly dog, came in here into the room, stuck his nose in the door, opened up the rest of the way, came in here, and I had no clue. And so the dog found the little red Tegu, and the dog, I don't know exactly what happened, but obviously the dog pestered the little red female Tegu into the corner by the door over here. And I had a box on the ground, a shoe box, and it was partially open because it wouldn't shut fully. And so she had chased the red Tegu, this one, into the box, and he was just long enough where his tail was sticking out. And the box had been chewed a little bit, like my dog had got a little more aggressive and was chewing at the box, but couldn't get to the red Tegu. So I come out of the out of the bathroom. I come out of the bathroom, and I noticed my dog coming out of the room. And so I'm like, you're not supposed to be in that room. And I came in, and I opened the door, and the Tegu was right in the corner of the door where, the door and the wall meets. And I opened the door, and I looked in the room. The dog had left the room. I looked in, I didn't see anything on the floor. I didn't think anything of it. And so I went to shut the door, and I shut the door completely. And that's when the Tegu's, little bit of the tip of the Tegu's tail that was sticking out of the box, of course, it went into the crack of the door. And when I shut the door, where the hinges are, it got stuck in the door. And I shut the door, and I noticed it wasn't shutting real well. And I went back in, opened the door, looked around, and there he was sitting in the box, and his tail had been damaged. It didn't shear it completely off, but it had done enough damage where I picked her up, took her in the bathroom, looked at it, and I put I wanted to clean it because it just looked damaged. I thought maybe I could salvage that part of the tail. And I put a little bit of peroxide on it, and she kind of struggled a little bit. I don't know if the peroxide stung that area a little bit, and she flopped her tail, and the tail just went boop and fell on the floor. And so I still have her tail, and it was very emotional for me. But it was just one of those things that's out of my control. And that gets into the subject kind of this video, where you can either keep your reptiles in a smaller enclosed cage, or you can let them roam your house. If you're in a smaller house, like an apartment, maybe let them roam multiple rooms. That's even more difficult. So I let them have a whole entire room where if they can't get under the door, then I know they're stuck in here and that they're secure unless your dog gets in. And there's just all kinds of things that you got to be really, really aware of with your Tegu lizards. These are like little children. And so that made me think a lot more about how I'm housing them. I love my room, and they surely enjoy roaming the whole entire room. But obviously that's going to be towards the warmer months here in Dallas, Texas. Between, January, February, March, April, maybe May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We're still in the, 80s during the days. We had a cold front that came through, and it got colder, and kind of got me thinking like what I'm going to do with these critters when it starts getting cold in the house, because my house doesn't have a whole lot of insulation, and it gets cold or it gets really hot in the summer. So I just wanted to touch base with everybody, and I'll show you, my two places that I have for them. If you've watched my videos, you've seen my whole entire room set up. I have some lights and a whole bunch of things to climb, and then I have a dedicated closet that I've converted into a pretty neat cage enclosure, if you want to call it that. And they both, my black and white 7-month Tegu and this 4-month-old Tegu female hang out in there, and they're perfect. They love on each other. I say that in the terms of human terms, but they hang on each other. They follow each other. They sit on each other. And right now, I don't see any need that they're going to hurt each other or damage one another. I do have to separate them, maybe keep it a little more private when they eat. But they really seem to enjoy each other, male and female. So I mean, they're still really young. So I don't know if that relates to one being a male and female, and there's an attraction, or they know that at this point. But yeah, that's enough talking. But yeah, that's what happened to his tail, and I was very, very distraught about that personally. But it's just nothing I could do. I can just learn from it and try to avoid that in the future if anything would happen to them. The little red female Tegu is taming down just a little bit. She is letting me pick her up. She's still real squirmy, and I just wanted to touch base. If someone's looking at a red Tegu or a black and white Tegu, my black and white Tegu is a dream lizard. He loves being picked up. He doesn't mind. He eats everything I put in front of him. This one is a lot more picky. This one started out eating cat food, and wasn't eating a whole lot of different food. And my black and white Tegu doesn't like cat food or dog food, but now that he's a little older, I feed it to him just to change up his food a little bit here and now and then. But their diets are completely different. This lizard is so different than my black and white Tegu that it's like they're from different planets, and I told you that before, or different continents. They're just so different. And also too, and I'll mention real quick, once she settles down, if she settles down, ow! That's the first time she's nipped my finger. Ouch, it kind of stung, but it wasn't bad. There's no blood or anything. She obviously wanted down. I need to let her down. But the red and white Tegu is having shedding problems, and that goes again to having her in a whole entire room versus having her in a smaller enclosure where I can control her humidity and her lighting. The black and white in her. Let me grab my black and white Tegu real quick over here. Okay, well, the black and white Tegu is kind of gone under the little part that I've made in the cage, and I don't want to take that apart. He is taking a nap or crashing out for the day. But the little red Tegu is obviously, like I've told you, how different the two are. Their diets are completely different. I'm thinking, with problem solving, that the red Tegu is going to have a lot more vitamins. And I've heard a couple of YouTube people talking, more scientific YouTubers, with the actual more degrees in, reptiles and animals, saying that the lights, the UVB lights are, they're not going to duplicate the actual sun. There's just no way that a light bulb is going to produce the natural rays, unimpeded rays of the sun. And so maybe just a different part of the continent of Argentine, because she's an Argentine red Tegu, that the UVB light, I have the Zoom Ed lights, the upper powerful bulbs, and maybe that's just not doing it for the red Tegu, where it's working well for the black and white Tegu. He is shedding fine, no problems, and he's growing really, really quickly, where the red female is growing slower and is having shedding problems. I bought this. I'm going to pull this in here real quick and show you. I purchased this. Also, too, I learned about vitamin B, super vitamin B, and that is a supplement, a vitamin, but it has all the different B vitamins in it. And a very well-respected breeder of Tegus has gone online and said if your Tegus, especially your red, he even identifies that red Tegus have more problems or more prone to shedding problems. And I totally agree, because mine is going through kind of not a good shed on this last most recent shed. So I started feeding vitamin B supplements, super vitamin B in there, and that helped a little bit, but that didn't fix the problem. So I got something else I'm going to show you real quick. This product. I'm sorry that I don't have a Tegu to make this, super interesting, but also too, I read reviews, and this is made by Zilla. Zilla is another excellent product that is that produces reptile products, lights, and all kinds of different things like Zoom Ed. And this is a shed ease, and it's supposed to help their shedding, and a lot of positive reviews on Petco or PetSmart. Now Petco is where I got this, and it is a little expensive now. Maybe that we're in this shamdemic, and our government is making everything a lot more expensive and harder to get. So this was like $10.99, and it's not that big of a bottle, and you use it up pretty quickly because you'll put this in with the percentage of this into the water, and you'll soak your reptile in there from the instructions for 20 minutes, and then it's supposed to make the skin come off a lot easier. It has worked. I put my little red Tegu in there, and then the big black one was wanted to go, in the water. So I was like, okay, even though he's not shedding, I put him in there, and there were pieces of skin on the black and white that I didn't know, that I couldn't see, that that were from past sheds, that were little patches that were stuck, and those started to come off. So it works pretty well. It helped the red one to shed most of his upper body portion, but the tail is still rock solid on his tail, and I cannot get the shed off his tail. So I'm just continuing to try to use this a couple of times and increase the humidity, and gave the red one, I let him sit in the sun today. She is a lot more prone to running and getting away, and so I had to be real careful with her, letting her get direct sunlight, because there's the potential that she could split, and I would hate to have to chase her down outside. But even a screen cuts down the amount of UVB from the sun that they get, so I wanted a clear open window, and I have that here. But again, I'm just getting back to the point that the red Tegu is a completely different animal than my black and white Tegu, even though they look very similar and they come from the same continent, and Argentina, South America. That they just have different requirements. I think that's pretty key, and I think that people need to know that, because everything about my red Tegu is opposite of my black and white Tegu. Everything. I was thinking of 50 different things about the two reptiles, and all 75 things are different. They do everything different. And the only one thing that I can really come into play is that they're both lizards. They poop differently. Everything's just it's I just can't explain, but it's interesting to know that if you get a red Tegu, or you already have black and white Tegus, and then you get a red Tegu, that you got to be prepared to do things a little different, and you got to be able to respond to situations that happen between the two different lizards. But other than that, that's the Shed Ease by Zilla. And let me show you just real quick. I'm going to take my camera off. A little more of a studio environment in here for better lights, so I can make better videos. So just don't mind all the lights. And I am working in here right now. I'm changing up some of the lights. Hopefully we'll see the little red Tegu go up. This is how they went up into when I left the door open. And I just gave them the opportunity to either go in and out of that room or the closet versus the whole different room. And you can see that they easily climb up. I have a little styrofoam piece, and they just go up the top, go up to the ledge that I built. And there's the black and white one out now. And then they just hang out in here sometimes because it stays more humid in here. And then I also just want to show you, the black and white came out of his little area that I built right here. They like to go in there, and they will sleep at night in there. And So I've just kind of customized this and shift this around. And I've got the ZoomEd UVB light, and I've got a UVA full spectrum 100-watt bulb right over on the other side. And you know, I've got some little ceramic plate and a flat cinder block piece that they will sit on that soaks up the heat. You can see the little red tegu going into that piece of bark. Sometimes she goes under there and sleeps, and then there she is coming back out, poking her head out. And then I have a heater in here, so during the night I can shut this door, and the heater has a thermostat on it. And then I built this the other day. I got this from Petco. I just got these gauges right here, and then I built this piece of wood. I cut this piece of wood up and stained it, and just made kind of a little decorative piece that's got the humidity and the temperature. So I have multiple temperature and humidity gauges, and one lower and one higher. And then I just set that right there. I also have a humidifier that goes right here. I took it out because you've got to clean that, because I'm not running distilled water through it, and it will build up calcium and lime. So I got to clean that all every few days. But the heater in there, and then at night I can turn on an additional light up top so that it's not just totally pitch black in there. But so there's the enclosure here, and this is working out really, really well. They like it in here. See there, he will go maybe into, because I'm talking louder so the camera can record it a little more comfortable than he's comfortable with. But they hang out in here. All right, and sorry, I'm making the video long again. But also too, during the summer months, I will let them hang out in this room. As you can see too, I've moved the snake out of his enclosure because that terrarium is too large. And then I've put him in a tub, and the tub will go in here on this shelf so that he can stay about 83 degrees at night and about 90 during the day. So, and that's just in my closet. But during the summer months, I just let them roam the room, and I have a setup right here. I've got a UVB light, ZoomEd light, and I've got the UVA, and it heats up those cinder blocks, and then they climb all around the room. So they have access to this whole room. And then here they have coconut chips, and they can go in there, and sometimes they poop in there, and I can moisten that up, and so the humidity in the room stays a little bit higher. Also too, I have that humidifier, but they can go around and walk around this whole room. And there's the carpet that I had laid out, the outdoor carpet to help, if they went poop on the floor. But they climbed up in that window and down the window and all over this room. So let me turn the camera back around. All right, so that's everything in a nutshell, but I just wanted to talk about what happened to the red tegu, because I mentioned that last month about telling what happened. Very, very unfortunate. And then as things move on, I thought I might be able to keep them in this whole entire room, all year round, but obviously it's going to get, reality hit me that it's going to get cold, and I'm not going to let them brumate. If it's going to let them brumate, I would just let them hang out in the room, find a place where they wanted to go chill out for the 5 or 6 months when it's cold, and save electricity. But I just didn't choose to do that this time because they're still just young, and I think just in my mind that's probably going to be when they're just a little bit older, like after their first year, when they're a year old or older, then I'm going to maybe consider more letting them brumate or hibernate. But other than that, that's the video. Hopefully it's not too long. Hopefully this was informative. The red tegu is going to need more vitamins. I think the red tegu is going to need more natural sunlight, more humidity. Thinking just some other things, maybe switching up some diet, maybe trying somehow to incorporate more vegetables. Both of my tegus just spit up. They turn their head at vegetables, and so I need to maybe incorporate vegetables and more vitamins. Just pushing the reptile vitamins. But other than that, thank you for viewing. Hopefully you found this informative. And again, bye-bye. Have a great day.